anyway, the situation was resolved without me. So as clinicians, working with children, adolescents, and adults, what benefits you in the social media range? Are there any platforms that help you do your jobs better?
So I'm part of the media committee of the American Academy of Telenovela and Psychiatry, and we back this issue around a lot. And most people draw a pretty clear line in the sand about not using social media, sometimes not even email, in a professional capacity. There are some people out there, I know of a colleague in New York City who uses Twitter. She has a professional Twitter account, and she will tweet with patients of hers and their families. She's pretty clear about when she uses it and when she doesn't. So, you know, if a patient sends you a 3 a.m. tweet that they're feeling suicidal, you know, most of us are not online and looking for tweets and feeling responsible for managing them at 3 in the morning. So there's some kind of professional issues that are a little sticky with using social media in a professional sense.
So what do you think about that? About the fact that the psychiatrist does communicate and leaves things wide open? You wouldn't do that.
I wouldn't, for my own practice.
Right.
I wouldn't. And I think probably the majority of us are not using social media in a professional sense.
Do you use it in a professional sense? Or are there any social media sites that you go to for anything?
Not for professional things. I do love, I mean, I get a lot of information. I have a lot of social work colleagues who I'm Facebook friends with, and we post articles that are really fascinating that support us in our work and things like that around some of the issues that we deal with. So that's kind of a nice advantage. But in terms of interacting with clients, I don't use it. I don't see myself being in the kind of practice where that would be beneficial, but I do see that depending on what the nature of that professional relationship is, there are times, if you're trying to outreach to somebody who's very challenging to outreach, and one of your particular goals is, for example, I'm thinking of a particular speaker who talked about her outreach work with girls who were being trafficked, that social media was one way to connect, and so very much using it as a tool for safety and connection, and I'm sure many of those same boundaries were, and I hope many of those same boundaries were sort of delivered around when I'm accessible, when I'm not, but here's a safe way for us to connect. And usually it's a social media connection, but it's in a private message scenario anyways, so it would be as private as a text or something like that, not like on a public post, but nonetheless, those are scenarios where I could see it potentially being a tool.
We didn't talk about it that much, but yes, there's the public communication and then there's the private communication. And sometimes they get mixed up and things happen. I'm supposed to keep track of the time here. That's one of my main jobs. I think unless any of you have anything else that you would like to add to these questions, I'm going to invite somebody up from the audience. You ready? Okay, Melissa Caswell, come on up. Melissa is the Director of Communication for the Consumer Counsel System. She manages social media for the entire system, and she understands firsthand the benefits of using social media. I feel like we should clap for you, Melissa. I can't believe it, we're nearly on time. We're a little bit early. All right, so thank you for coming up here with us. And what I would like you to do is to tell us, first of all, about the council, what its purpose is, and then you can tell us about how you use social media.
Okay. Well, the Consumer Counsel System in Maine, we're a public instrumentality, independent public instrumentality, which means that our organization was put into law by the Maine legislature, and we basically give a voice to consumers, past and present, of mental health services. We're just one of the ways that people can give their opinion on the the mental health system and how to make it better, how to make it recovery focused. We do that. We do a lot of public policy work. We also do a lot of testifying at the legislature on mental health bills that come up. And we work with issue statements where we, in local areas around the state, to address things that would make the mental health system better, what's working, what's not working. So we look to our peers to give us feedback that we can then advise the legislature, the Department of Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services, and DHHS, as well as even sometimes to the governor of the state.
And how do you communicate with each other?
We have local councils that meet around the state on a monthly basis. We have 9 currently that meet, but some of the way that we get our information is through social media, via feedback from our website, from Facebook, from Twitter, that people can weigh in on some of the issues that we have questions on to get information and feedback from, so we use that as well to get.
Did you set up the accounts?
I did, yes I did.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was fun, huh?
Yeah, oh yeah, it's a challenge sometimes to keep track of all the information that's out there, but yeah, we within the last couple of years have started to really use Facebook and Twitter more to get information out. We're still in the process of getting a forum to get feedback from people, but I found that it's a way that if people see something that we've posted, that they're more inclined to contact the office or email me or one of the other staff members to give their input on things that we're working on.
And you use Facebook and Twitter primarily,
Yes.
and the messaging, is it different?
Not so much. With Twitter, obviously, you have to condense what I put on Facebook, so I usually use Twitter to link to our website or our Facebook page so that people can get more information. We do have a YouTube page as well that we haven't utilized quite as much yet, but we're in the process of working on that, so we're hoping that we can get some videos out to people.
What kind of videos are you going to be creating?
Videos from some of our members. I'm hoping that we get that talk about the council and why they got involved and why it's important for people to get involved in some of the work that we do with public policy change. Also, we share a lot of things from around the state, from around the nation, and around the whole world, because as they say, that what happens nationally also could affect us here in Maine, so that we have a systems specialist, Vicki McCarty, that is always online and looking at things that come up that we could weigh in on that would have an effect of us here in Maine as well.
Do people who belong ever share their personal stories?
No, not so much yet. Sometimes we get personal questions of where people can find support and help, and I usually get that via my email, and then I can, direct them to the resources necessary. But not so much.
I was just curious about that because Fran and Marty have shared their personal story in a book that they've written, and Kevin and his wife have shared their personal story. There's quite a lot of power in that, and so social media is a vehicle that can be used to share personal stories, and I wonder if that's something that you're considering doing, if you see value in it.
Absolutely. I think as we move to do these YouTube videos, that I'm hoping that we'll have some of the members that will get into their story, and then how becoming part of the council and getting out there and doing some testifying and how that's helped their recovery and help them to move forward. So I do think that it's important, and I'd like to see that happen, yes.
I'd like to go back to Facebook for a second. Now, on Facebook, what are the things that you share on Facebook? Is it only about the council, or do you share information of stories that are happening around the country, around the world?
Yeah, no, it's a little of everything. We do share stuff about the council, but we also, like I post things like this forum to encourage people to come and attend anything that's happening around the state as it pertains to mental health, so forums and and events and anything that people, like, I'm just learning about Marty and Fran's book, and that would be something that I would like to post for people to be able to go and to check out, so.
They just did, Fran and Marty just did a couple of fun things using Facebook. When they launched the cover of their book, and then when they launched the book itself, they had an event on Facebook that lasted for a couple of hours. And you can't talk face-to-face, although they had some videos on there, but it just kept moving right along. They had guests, and you could write in their questions, and the guest would answer, writing back. It was pretty interesting. Looked like it was simple. Marty, was it simple to put on that Facebook event? Wait a second, I think you have to be turned up.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
The one
hi.
note guitar.
Thanks for mentioning that, and thanks actually for turning up to check them out when they were on, Dan. Technically very simple. I mean, it's just Facebook. It's like a Facebook page that's created specifically for that event. So people can post, like you said, they can post written messages, photos, videos. Fran and I pre-recorded some videos of us reading from the book and different things, which we dropped in there for people whilst the event was on. The book launch that was last weekend was you can make them as long as you like or as short as you like. That was 4 hours long. The book cover reveal that we did, I made the mistake of making that 10 hours long. And I had no intention that people would be there the whole time, but it was really popular and people were there pretty much the whole time. So I was sat in this seat for 10 hours, kind of doing the same job that Diane's doing there for us now. So there is a lot of opportunity to use the technology in creative ways. When you were just, Diane, when you were asking Melissa there about the sharing of stories, people's personal lived experience, that's something, myself, as somebody who does not personally have a mental health diagnosis, that I found incredibly powerful. There are any number of sites, some of the ones that I mentioned before, and there's another one called Stigma Fighters, which invites people to write and submit their personal stories of living with illness. And they have a Facebook page and they all get posted up on there. There's a separate website and there's also a book. They've actually published 2 anthologies of these stories. For me, as somebody who doesn't have first-hand experience, websites like that share people's experiences are just incredibly valuable from the point of view of me gaining some insight into what it's like. I've learned a lot from Fran with her personal experience, but that's one person, with her personal experience of bipolar disorder. By making use of these websites, you can very easily and for free just expand your awareness of what it's like for so many people. So it's a very, very positive experience.
It helps, you think, to break the stigma, because we still deal with the stigma.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can never remember which way around it is, whether in the States there you talk about 1 in 5, and over here we talk about 1 in 4, or the other way around. A very, between 20-25% or whatever of all of us in the hall that you're sitting in your workplace, on the bus or your journey to work or whatever. An awful lot of people, their lived experiences, they're having to deal with mental health issues, day in, day out, perhaps lifelong, perhaps just for a certain period of time. And most of the time it's not talked about. So the more it is talked about and the more people read or listen to those stories, it's hard to maintain prejudice in light of that.
Well, unless you ladies have anything else you'd like to say, I think I might open it up to our audience. And now it's your turn. I'm going to allow you to ask questions, and I might even allow you to make comments. if somebody has a question or a comment. Well, I might throw out some questions. So I have a question to, if I ask a question of somebody in the audience, they use one of these microphones that we're using, or how do we deal with that? Okay. Can I call on one of those two people in the front row? The Mannix family?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So you wrote a book and about your personal situation. Do you use social media too to help get the word out? I know that you don't. Okay, so we'll just move you aside.
He does.
Kevin, do you use social media to try
Yes.
to?
Yep.
Can you, do you feel comfortable getting up in front of a crowd?
No, not at all.
Do you want to use the microphone?
Sure.
So you can just tell people how.
Well, you know, we have our book is called Weather and Shame, so we have a website, weatherandshame.com, and we post where we're going to be speaking about the book, and we also, when we speak, we got, the book kind of came out of a week-long series that we did on Channel 6 called Kevin's Story. And we got over 4,000 responses from that. It was one of the biggest responses they ever had. We got emails pouring in all week, people sharing their stories, and some amazing stories. And when we go out to speak, we hear people tell us amazing stories. And what has been referred to on several occasions here by everybody on this stage and on TV is that sharing begets more sharing. And when we go out to speak, we find that at the end, we use some of these quotes and have the audience read them. And it stimulates conversation like we're having tonight. And again, all of that came out of emails and social media through Channel 6. And we didn't expect, Linda expected a lot of response from it. She thought this subject needed to be talked about, especially by me because I'm so well known. But I didn't think so. But it certainly exploded, and more people are writing and telling their personal stories. And I think that's extremely important.
Does anybody want to ask Kevin a question?
Ask me anything.
About the hurricane?
Well, almost anything.
About the weather.
No, don't ask me about the weather.
Tell us about your book.
It is, I'm an adult child of an alcoholic. My dad was the alcoholic. My mother suffered from depression. Linda's mom took her own life when she was 7 years old. And we share our stories of living with that, growing up with that, and how we turned our lives around to get the help we needed to deal with it on a day-to-day basis. Linda started a lot younger than I did. It took me a lot longer to talk about it or to deal with it because of the shame and stigma around it. And that's really what our book is about. Shame and stigma prevents us, I think, from talking about these issues. And not everybody has an issue or a story like ours. But nevertheless, we also talk about if you don't have a story, how about having some compassion for people who are suffering? And so we try and spread that message through our book, and we go back and forth. I tell my story, then she tells hers. And we did 7 chapters, and we used weather titles for the chapters. And again, it's really taken off. And what's And why it has taken off is because people look at me and say, you? Because when I was on TV, I was very happy looking, but when I got off TV, not so much. And it was hard to talk about that at first because I didn't think that you guys would care about that. But what I found is that you do, and that there's a lot of love out there for me, and therefore people will come and listen to us, and so we can share that message of shame and stigma. So we're very proud of it. Thank you for asking.
You know, that harkens right back to the skit that the kids put on
Yes.
for us. It does, you know. You have your public persona, and you need people to pay attention to the real you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You did well getting out
Oh,
there in front of
gee,
people.
thanks. Do you think I could get a job in television?
Yes, we have a question or a comment?
Yes, I was at a session that you were at University of Southern Maine. That's where I first heard your story. The room was packed. I have come over here. This is the first time I'm at Westbrook High School. I live in Portland, and I teach at University of New England. I'm a physician assistant. But I am just sad to see that there are so few people here, and I wondered how this was publicized, because I actually don't even know how I got an email. I got an email 5 days ago, and I wondered how this was publicized. Secondly, I wanted just to say I left the room when the young people went out because I wanted to talk to them and ask their thoughts. And I always personally feel it can be very helpful to have young people as part of the panel. And a couple of them I spoke to are leaders in their school. So they would have been ideal. They said they would have loved to have thought of having young people up here. And we can hear from the young people because they do have many of the answers. So I'll just leave it at that and ask, how was this publicized? Because how sad that the teachers aren't here. Because we all need to be watching and listening and being willing to see what we see with our young people. I tell my students, every child you see on the street, look in their eyes, give them a smile, and that acknowledges them. You don't even have to interact, but acknowledge people. Thank you. So,
I'm happy to address that, actually. We sent flyers home to nearby schools in Portland, Westbrook. Westbrook actually not only sent it home to kids via email to their parents, but they also put it on their website. We did a number of email blasts that went out to over 1,800 people. We had radio ads. We had print ads. So I think the conversation is really about...
We contacted Press Herald to do a story, and they were
Right.
there.
What gets people out here? Do we need to have a horrible tragedy in our community to get people to pay attention?
We lost 2 students at Waynfleet recently to
Yeah.
suicide.
Yeah.
Everybody would have known about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it really takes to get people out here, but we need to find out what that magic button is and get them here. I'll tell you, when I was setting up here earlier today, one of the staff members was here and she was asking me what I was doing. And I explained about the forum, and she just got very animated and talked about her 13-year-old daughter and how she said she wouldn't want to have any more kids, and it's so hard with social media. And she went on and on, oh, I'd love to be there, I really want to be there, I'll watch it. I hope she's on YouTube right now because she said she would, but this all went out to a lot of people, and I went, what didn't hit? So I'd love to know for you guys what resonated with you to make you want to be here tonight. And this is a really important topic. I'm so glad we're getting it taped. But we need to have these conversations, and it's really important. We also need to be talking about how can we use social media to reduce the stigma, which is so painful and makes it so difficult for a lot of people to go out and get the treatment that they really need. So there is a little sticker out there if you didn't get one, but please take one, take two, take three. We have plenty. honest. So anyway, thank you all for being here. I'm sure there's other questions you may all have for this group. I actually have one for Melissa, if you don't mind. Because you do your Facebook page, you're monitoring all of it, do you ever have any issues with, say, privacy or people sharing their lived experience with a mental illness? Does it ever become any kind of a privacy issue?
Not yet that we've had.
Yeah.
As we said, it's fairly new that we've used it, so I haven't seen that happen yet, but.
Yeah. Okay. So how do you see us being able to use social media? What are the things that we can do? Is it sharing stories? What is it?
Yeah, I think it's very important for people to share their story because it gets the conversation started. For me, I think that some people may be cautious with that because of putting too much information out there, so to kind of gauge how much you really want to share. But me, I'm pretty open about my struggles with mental illness, and I think it's great. I've had nothing but positive feedback from people of how they say that it's great, that I'm forward to talk about it and get people talking, but not everybody's at that space where they want to do that.
Well, thank you for doing that. I think the work you do is really important, and providing that forum where people can talk about their lived experience, and that's so important. I mean, Fran, you know, you're my hero. You are just amazing. I mean, you just,
What?
I mean, you just share so much, and people really, you know, they really look up to
on
that.
Facebook, yeah,
Yeah.
on Facebook, I mean, I have a circle of friends, but Facebook is just like such a large family, and so many people really respond very well to my writings. And I'm not trying to really get anything. I'm just sharing what I go through inside so people can kind of see the insides of how a mind like this is. And I get such great response. I mean, it's taken years. You know, I've been doing this for 5 years, and it's taken a long time to just kind of build that kind of rapport, because people don't want to talk about mental illness. This is something that is, you know, that needs to be talked about desperately. But so when you do it, you couch it in a way that it's palatable. That, you know, that it's like, oh, this isn't horrible. You know, oh, I see you know, and so then it's a different animal. So. Yeah, but it's taken a long time, and it's taken a lot of courage inside myself to find a voice, you know, that you know, to find my voice and to allow that to be what it is and be as authentic and real as I possibly can. That's all I care about. So it's really a self-development tool. It's you know, it's so many things to me, and I can't imagine living without Facebook. I mean, certainly, you know, I'll go out of my house and go to the park, yeah. You know,
And we all know about it.
I do things, you know, and I because I have an active illness, there's times I'm more stable than others. And Marty helps me monitor that, like just, you know, I had a bit of mania happening, and, you know, I can tell, but I have enough awareness for my meditation mindfulness stuff to go, oh, this is happening. Now, what can we do? And so my friend Bobby helps me, and my friend Marty helps me, and they kind of compose how about let's do something like this, you know? So that'll help. But Facebook is a big avenue for my self-growth, and, you know, and I'm glad that people are joining me because it's a lot of fun too.
Franny, I'm curious about that first time that you spoke up to Marty. You didn't even know Marty, but you just took exception to something that he posted on Facebook. You happened to share a
When
friend.
I'm in mania, I have no fear, zero fear. It doesn't matter what is going on. It doesn't matter anything. Nothing matters. Oh. Okay. So nothing matters. You know, nothing's sacred. You know, there's like, and when I'm at it, I feel like I'm just telling the truth. You know, I'm just like,
totally God and stuff, So when I did that with Marty, even though I was in that state, what I said was very true, because the woman, because I ended up speaking to that woman who wanted to go away, and, called her on the phone, wrote to her, and all these people are saying things like, go to the health food store and get a couple supplements, and I was just like getting angrier and angrier and angrier. So by the time Marty came along, he had no chance.
You got a question?
Hey, so I just wanted to kind of speak to how I found out about this. I had a coworker who sent me an email to all of my agencies. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm working primarily in the HCT, or home and community-based treatment for children and their families who are experiencing mental illness and other behavioral concerns. So he sent me this along with some other of my coworkers, and unfortunately I'm the only one here. And it particularly got my attention because working with children, primarily between the ages of 6 and 16 or so, but particularly between 0 and 20, Facebook and online posting has become a very prominent issue, and primarily posting inappropriate pictures. We've heard of sexting via phone, but also young girls primarily, unfortunately, posting pictures of themselves that are very scandalous and drawing attention to them in a way that is inappropriate for such a social area, and especially having those pictures online for, who knows, sometimes forever, someone decides to download it. Being aware of that safety and the trouble that's got them into, and we are currently in the process of opening up a client who has experienced some, who was, without sharing too much, she was sexually assaulted upon by putting herself out there, and an older gentleman came to her house. She didn't realize what the consequences were. So seeing children put themselves in really dangerous, unfortunate situations via this mode, and so coming through the lens of mostly working with children and teenagers, I found that Facebook can be, and other social media sites can be really dangerous and potentially harmful, and not really having their brain developed enough to understand the consequences of what they might be posting and the interactions that they're having. I think that social media can, you can be relatively anonymous, but also people get a lot more brave when they're behind their computer screen and say things that they may not say to someone in person, which is a lot of that bullying happens. And personally, I am very thankful that social media and Facebook wasn't around when I was in high school and middle school, because I think that it's just, there's a lot of nasty stuff going on. I've heard of some studies or research that suggests that it can actually lead to greater depression in some people, because people, as I say, put their greatest hits on Facebook. You're seeing people that are so in love, and pictures of their having fun and parties and going on vacations, and they're showing you oftentimes a lot of the good stuff, a lot of the great things that happen in their lives. And so that other person who's not experiencing those is like, wow, all these people are having so much fun, they're having a great time, they're so in love with their boyfriend or girlfriend, whomever, and I'm just sitting here, wasting my life away, and not realizing that those people are probably experiencing the same feelings at some point, but they're just not sharing that as much. So those are just kind of some of my thoughts, and also working with those individuals, something that has come up a lot, maybe you guys can speak to this a little bit, is having some of the clients we work with post something on Facebook to the effect of, oh, I hate my life so much, I just wish I was dead. Some sort of suicidal ideations or thoughts. And then if we come to our attention, we address it like, oh no, I was just kidding, or I didn't really mean that, or whatever. But it draws that line, like especially as a mandated reporter, or someone who might need to talk to their parents or someone else. What do you do with a kid who says, I want to kill myself online, and then says, no, I'm just kidding? How seriously do you take that? It's tough to know sometimes. So I know that was a lot, but.
So is there a question there for them, maybe?
I guess just to speak to how to manage, I guess in general the question is how to in general, I know it's case by case, as with pretty much everything we're dealing with today, but in general, a teenager says, I want to kill myself, having some sort of suicidal thoughts or ideations online. How to approach that without making them feel like they can't express themselves, but also how serious you take it, and what point do you go to the next step of, are they in crisis?
Sure. So I was thinking, as you were speaking, and also as some of the adults before you were speaking, about some of the differences between disclosure in children versus adults. And so many of you who spoke talked about sharing your personal narratives as adults and in a thoughtful, kind of measured way. Something that you probably had sort of mulled over and thought about and had editors of various sorts, right? You sort of thought about it and talked about it with others, and maybe had other people read what you'd written, which is incredibly important for stigma and I think for modeling for all of us. Many of the teenagers I work with have the opposite problem, sort of like over-disclosure all the time. So we live in this world of constant selfies and people posting everything from what they had for breakfast to suicidal thoughts online. And so I think for me, clinically, when I'm with kids and families, and maybe for you too, Dory, it's about helping kids sort of think about what to post and when and who sees it. So we know that kids' frontal lobes are not fully developed, and that's how they can be really bright and intelligent, and yet incredibly impulsive and almost entirely lacking in the ability to kind of foresee future consequences. And so really helping them kind of self-regulate, I think, is important for parents, for teachers, for clinicians, for all of us. To your question, I always take that stuff very seriously, and as seriously as if they had said it to me in my office or if they had said it to their parent over breakfast. And so I think it's really important that kids get evaluated in some way, in the school setting, the school social worker, one of us in our offices, emergency room, the crisis team. So I always take that stuff really seriously, even when a kid backs down and says, oh, I was just kidding, I didn't mean it. But that's the story.
Yeah, I would say ditto to all that, and just add that the consequences of not taking it seriously, even if they say, oh, I was just kidding or something, is this, the sense of maybe they don't care that I am feeling this badly, maybe they don't care if I hurt myself or if I disappear, and so really responding and recognizing how important they are and how important their safety is in those moments is just a really key message, regardless as to whether it was an impulsive, like, oh, I hate my life kind of scenario versus I hate my life.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kelly DeVoe. I'm the principal here at Westbrook High School, so thank you all for being here. This is an important issue that we deal with on a daily basis, and for the student who gives this sort of statement, what we are often dealing with is not just the mandatory reporting, but the cleanup after, because the comments, whether trying to decipher what the intention was, the response is not always supportive, particularly from peers. And that, I think, is a dangerous line that we have to caution our students with and our children with. And that brings me to, as a principal and also as a mother, I find myself repeatedly asked, how do I keep my kids safe? How do I manage my kid and their social media? And what has become sort of increasingly obvious is that we cannot stay a step ahead of the students and the technology, and it's a troubling and concerning statement to have to make, but it is the reality. There are now apps where kids can hide basically the icons on their phones, and so it looks like a calculator until you hit the exact right algorithm, and then it opens up and all of the social media apps are hidden there. Additionally, we don't, as parents, necessarily know what the icon looks like. I'm not sure that goes to something I should be tapping on and checking into if I'm thinking I'm going to regulate what my child is on. As a mom of a 13-year-old, the best that I've been able to, and an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, so it's coming. And I think that's part of the scary part is right now, because of my job, I feel like I'm almost on a level playing field, but I'm not going to be able to keep up forever. And I think that trying to help parents to have the conversations about good decision-making ahead of time, well before, quite frankly, way before they have any sort of social media or devices in their hands, is really critically important. So we're talking to them about what is good practice. We're modeling. So if we're on Facebook, that we're talking to them about the things that we respond to or we don't respond to, the things that we put up or we don't put up. If we're posting pictures of our children and then telling our children we don't want them posting pictures of themselves, are we sending mixed messages? So just really looking at the mirror and also recognizing we can't necessarily get out in front of it. The best that we can do is to be having the conversations with kids about what it is that we really hope that they make choices about. And when they do get social media, I do strongly encourage the trust but verify as much as you can and have conversations. If they liked a picture and you have questions about why they would have liked it because it's of questionable material, talk to them about it. Because pretty quickly they're going to figure out how to hide it from you, so that it's good that they know ahead of time where you stand on the things that they're doing. So commentary, apologize, no question.
I think, thank you for saying all of that. I know that a lot of what you just laid out is what we hope to make sure to cover tonight in terms of, if there was one key message, it would be that, especially when it comes to parenting around this issue or being a trusted adult, like an educator around this issue, is that this is not a one-time conversation. It's an ongoing conversation. It's a skills-building conversation. It's hopefully a trust-building conversation. It's a non-judgmental conversation so that it can keep happening in the same ways that we hope that parents and caring adults are making sure to educate children around all kinds of issues around safety and danger, around development and brain development and sexual development and all of those pieces, and that all of those things happen in stages. You talk about sex differently with a 3-year-old than you do a 10-year-old and a 14-year-old, and that you talk about screen time and media time and Facebook and all of those things at different stages, and that it's also just not a once-a-year conversation. You know, that these, especially with this level of exposure, this level of vulnerability for kids, it's really just saying, like, I'm curious, I want to keep an open conversation. When you hear things that are disturbing, I want to support you in like trying to figure out how to navigate that, and all of those pieces to just build those skills.
Yeah, I wanted to say that my kids, before Facebook, there was, I think, Instant Messenger, which was back, my girls are 22 and 26, so, and that was the beginning where I saw, like, oh my God, this is crazy. And the times that my kids were in conversations that were very upsetting to them, and they'd come to me, through me in that world, having to help them navigate, like you just said, but it means really getting your hands dirty and getting in there. One time, my older girl, she was probably about 13, and she was screaming, "Mom, someone said they're gonna get offline," or whatever it was called then, instant message, and take a coat hanger and strangle themselves because they hate their life. And, you know, I'm a social worker, so I was like, well, we gotta, you know, what do you think? So it was hours and hours of sitting there with her, talking to this girl, asking if anyone else was in her home, is there an adult she could talk to, and does she have a number she could call if she doesn't want to tell her parents, and is there anyone else she could talk to? I mean, it was endless, and, you know, that's hard. It's really hard to see my girl struggle, but then know there's someone else out there and somewhere in Portland that was going to take a hanger, you know, even if she didn't mean it, it was still very specific. And so I guess when you guys were talking earlier, it just reminded me of how much I had to be over their shoulder all the time and intruding in ways that weren't obvious, but you know, I would say, so how was your Facebook life or whatever, you know. I would just sort of try to figure out a way to insert myself. And I don't believe it's okay to just let them do their thing and it's their space. And maybe if it's a forum and it's a positive thing, like you're saying, it's out there for kids, I would tell a lot of my clients, don't be afraid to be in your kids' online life, because it's a whole nother life. And I would see a lot of my kids, you know, hopefully weren't mean, but I would see what other people would say to each other, and it was mean. It was really, really mean. And I thought, this is not good. This is not good. And like someone said, they don't have to say it to their face, so it's easy to be mean. And I guess as adults, we can scream what we want to put on our Facebook, like you said. I don't even have Facebook. And for that reason, I just don't have time for it. And I don't feel the need for it for myself. But I feel really strongly that as kids, they're so vulnerable, and we have to just be in their life as much as we can with this stuff, and not feel embarrassed or ashamed about it. My kids would tell me what they wanted. I'm sure they didn't tell me a lot too, but they knew that I was on their back. They knew that I was like, okay, I'm curious, you've been on there an hour or two, time for something else, time to go listen to music or do your homework or whatever. So I don't know, it's like I had a TV rule, no TVs in the bedroom at all. And now they both have kids, and they're like, we're going to let our kid have a TV. I'm like, good for you. I wanted it to be family time when we were watching TV. So, I don't know. I guess I appreciate that perspective, but I just feel really strongly that as parents, we have to also really be there for our kid who's going to experience negativity and hear other kids want to hurt themselves and stuff. And we have to be willing to sit there for hours with them.
My name is Nancy Thompson, and I'm from Cape Elizabeth, and I lost an 18-year-old son to suicide 12 years ago. And I've done a lot. I feel like I've been very proactive in the field of mental health, not by choice, but because I became an advocate overnight because of Timmy's story. So thank you all for coming tonight and giving me some hope. I kind of stopped telling Timmy's story a little bit recently. I think that I should tell Timmy's story a little bit more now that I hear this, because reducing stigma is my #1 goal, always has been. The first thing that I think of is a lot of Timmy's friends didn't know what Timmy was dealing with. His illness, his depression came on so suddenly when he was a senior in high school towards the end, when things were really, really difficult for him. Had he known, I think that there were support systems there for him to access services, Timmy may still be alive today. But I channeled a lot of that, my grief, by advocating, which I'm an excellent advocator, I think. I actually went up to Augusta and I worked really hard on a bill, the suicide prevention bill, which now is in every school system, where you have to go ahead and educate the educators on suicide prevention. And my goal was to hopefully save one life, and I hope that I have saved some lives along the way by opening up my mouth and talking about Timmy Thompson. And I did read your book, Kevin and Linda, Weathering Shame, was just amazing. Yeah, I really, really got a lot out of that. And I think that just, we're all human. We all have these stories, we all interact, and it's really great, Martin, that you're in the UK helping Fran here in the States. And it's really important. And I'm really saddened that there aren't 2,000 people right here listening to this right now, but I hope that it will move on, and maybe we can have another one of these forums and really push our marketing efforts into a sector where it may just be for health teachers, or it may just be for our parent-teacher organizations, or really target market those people. And then once we do that, maybe we could get a little bit more people involved. So thank you for your efforts.
And I think just, I know doing this work as a social worker, having childcare free food. Because we did some research on what got people there, and it was always, people, this is a hard subject,
So people need a draw. We've done 80-something events this year, and the draw is Kevin. They come because they want to meet Kevin. And we've gone from, what's the farthest you went? Aroostook County, way up there. I mean, even in the little remote towns, we get 30, 40, 50 people, and they want to meet Kevin, and then while they're meeting Kevin, they'll hear about mental health. So, I don't know, just more of a draw, and if we had childcare here, maybe, I mean, as a single mom for 15 years, I would have never been able to come to this at night. So maybe just some of that kind of stuff to help people get here. Raffles, things that people will come out for.
Let's get Marty another chance to talk right there.
Marty, we're going to turn you back on. I know that it's like midnight where you are. Are you that woke you up?
Turn it on.
It's midnight, but as Fran knows well, this is nothing. This is nothing. I'll give you another hour if you want it.
Well, is there anything else that you would like to comment on, or do you want to say goodbye?
I don't think so specifically. I'm just so grateful to have, well, first of all, to have been invited to take part in this, to actually to be here with you all. I mean, the one thing I haven't seen the audience. So I'm gathering that it's not quite packed house, but I haven't actually seen everybody out there. Don't drop it. No, it's okay. It's okay. No, it's incredibly meaningful. And the lady that was just speaking there, who mentioned like my support of Fran from across here. Thank you for that recognition. It means a lot to me and Fran. And I think when we were talking about sharing stories, I mean, that's what we're about with the book. It's not a plug for the book, but it's a plug for the idea of it isn't just about sharing the stories of those who have mental illness, who are living with that themselves. It's about the families, the friends, all the rest of us sharing our stories of what that means to know somebody who's dealing with this stuff. Because in terms of countering stigma, it isn't only it's not the responsibility of those living with mental illness to sort of convert the rest of us. You know, it's we're all in this together. It takes a community, so we've all got to kind of step up to this. So I did also like the question or the comment from the other lady about it would have been kind of cool to have had some of the younger people on the panel or on the stage. Maybe there's an opportunity there for another event. But just thank you for having me here. It's been brilliant.
Well, thank you. And time for bed, I think, huh? Thank you all for being here, and I'm so glad that you all felt comfortable participating, giving us your comments, and asking questions. Thank you very, very much for all of your expertise and your insights. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you, Maine Behavioral Healthcare, for even putting on this forum. Did you want to say a couple more words?
Also share the information you learned tonight with your friends and colleagues. If you're in a professional organization, send it out so that everyone can be talking about this.
And the bottom line for me tonight was the importance of having conversations, whether we're having these conversations face-to-face like we are tonight, or whether we're having conversations online. We need to start and continue the conversations and let social media be a benefit.
Diane, I wanted to also just conclude by thanking you for moderating the panel, and to our panelists, and to Marty for streaming in here over the seas, and for everybody for coming out tonight. I really appreciate the feedback about how to improve the the venue and also how to get the word out more. So it's really the challenge in this field. We know that nationally, depending on the statistic you read, between 1 in 4 and 1 in 5 people has some mental health need or behavioral health need. And on average, only 1 in 10 actually is actually seeking treatment. And then even a smaller percentage actually receive treatment. So it is the challenge because we know there's need. And how do we provide a forum and a setting that is safe and appropriate and vibrant for, in this context, we're talking a lot about youth and younger people, and so how we can make that message relevant. So I'll just put out a call to all of you. We want to learn from the feedback that you shared tonight, and we do have a planning committee that works putting this together. So if you would be willing to help us, we would appreciate any of the insights that you could provide to help us make future programs even more sustainable and better, because it's part of our mission to be out in our communities, letting people know how important this work is, and being so thankful for the courage and the passion and the energy of the people who came out here tonight and who live every day with, unfortunately, stigma and discrimination for something that is really something that we're here all to help. So with that, I just want to thank again the panel and encourage you, if you don't already, please get connected with our team here so we can include you in our planning for future events. Thank you very much.
It's quite the road.
Exciting.
Yeah, so look at that. I know.
4 years.
Let's see.
Yeah.